Hey, how's everyone? It's Jacqueline. I'm getting set up for our new video today. We're going to be discussing Alien today. Um, I've got an influx of new subscribers because of my Alien Romulus breakdown video. And I wanted to clarify, to be honest, the movie's gotten worse as I've thought about it. But we're not going to be talking about Romulus. I will bring up some counterpoints as I go on in this video. I might bring up Romulus a couple of times. But this is more about my experience as an 8-year-old watching Alien and even Aliens. And I would like to keep Aliens for another video, and really break down why the original Alien so specifically has such a powerful impact on my life, and why I obsess over it, and why I have all the shit and other things, and also some people ask me, what are these items behind me? So this one, they're both Prime 1 Studio, and I'm sure there's some collectors here. Actually, someone offered me Queen Studios life-size Big Chap head, which is very rare, and they were trying to offer me to buy it, and I was like, oh, there's no way. That thing's like like $5,000-$6,000. You can kiss my ass. I don't have that kind of money. But to actually, one of these now is worth like $6,000. This one right here is, of course, the dog alien, which is from Alien 3. And I call it the ox alien, or the bull, or the dragon, But that one it's 1/3. Both of them are 1/3. That's what I collect. And Prime 1 Studio, that one came out, I think, 2017. And then maybe 2018. I think it was when it was announced, was 2017. And then this one is the Big Chap from Alien. It's also Prime 1 Studio, and so is the Egg. They're all 1/3. And then I'm going to be getting a statue to go in the middle here, which is going to be Syl from Species. And it's coming out from PCS Collectibles, which they've done such a great job this year, bringing in old titles. And Species is, of course, designed by H.R. Giger, who also designed all these creatures. And so, especially for the first and third film, he had the most influence over the Alien franchise. And he's pretty much been the guide for all of them since then. But I wanted to discuss my experience with Alien. And it actually starts with Aliens. When I was a kid, my parents used to have a cupboard, and the cupboard had VHS tapes. And back then, most people didn't buy VHS. You just recorded it from TV when it came on. And so there was an area in our video collection that was, because those movies were so expensive if you had to buy them, like the original, like actually from the studio, was very expensive. So everyone just recorded off their TV. And so there was like the adult section of the cupboard, which was like the scary movies, like Predator was in there, and I never saw that one until a little bit later in life. But there was always Aliens, which my mom's handwriting, which is like etched into my brain in pencil, was written on the white piece of paper that was on the outside of the VHS. And me and my brother were like, when they were out one day, we were like, you wanna watch it? Let's watch it. So I was like, okay. And I remember when we started the movie, the beginning was missing because, you had to rush to go record it back in the 80s, probably making food or something. So you had to rush back to go and record the movie. So right in the beginning, was cut. But it started when they're actually searching the Narcissus, which is the ship from Alien, with Ripley in it. And I remember thinking, like, okay, who is this person? And so I felt like I was missing information. But as the movie went on, I was so blown away as an 8-year-old kid by like the Queen Alien and everything. And when the combat team goes into the nest, it was just kind of like, holy shit, like what kind of movie is this? This is wild, and I loved it. But my mom, she said, she found out because, like all kids, we put back the VHS like upside down, or it was moved, or in the wrong area because we were panicking to put it back when they came home. And so or I had watched it over and over and over, I think. And my mom was like, did you like it? When she asked us, she knew that we'd watched. She was like, so I think you guys watched Aliens, right? And we're like, ugh. And so we're like, yeah. And she wanted to know if we liked it. And I was like, oh yeah, like I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good. And all this. And she goes, well, if you really like that, we have to get our hands on the original. And the original is much better. And I was like, really? And I was like, there's another one that comes out before this one? They were like, oh yeah. And she was like, that one's a little bit better, and it's like different. And they knew I was very obsessed with aliens. Like from then on, I had like the Kenner toys, and I had everything, the snake alien, the gorilla alien with the squirted water head. So I was really into it, because I'm 40 now. So it was prime time. Like early 90s was my time to be a kid, and rollerblades and alien toys. So Yeah, we actually got it one day, and we were in a new house. And I remember when we got home, it was like 7 o'clock at night. My dad's a karate instructor, a sensei, and we all came back, and we were still in like I think we may have changed. I don't know, but we all sat down to watch Alien, and my mom had the VHS, and it looked just like this behind me in the poster. I remember seeing the clay net that's on the bottom, that little netting right there, and the egg, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is all that? You know, I was like, what is this? And so even the poster unnerved me greatly when I was like 8 years old. And so we all sat down, turned the lights out, and we started Alien. And I remember it was almost like aliens didn't mean anything, even though I knew it all. But Alien was so different. And that's a compliment to both of those movies. But it was so different than Aliens that I was like, wow, okay. And it's so slow. The beginning, that first shot of space, and you feel like that camera could just go for all time, moving sideways with that golden background with the planet right up against it. And it just feels so alone, so silent and so eerie with Jerry Goldsmith's score where there's like those bubbling sounds that are coming up, and it's just like almost alien. Everything about Alien is alien. The opening title is weird. The whole music, that whole shot, the way the camera pans, even the beginning. You're inside the Nostromo when they're going through the hallway and they're showing you the hall. They're showing you the little birds that drink water. They're showing you all of that, like as you pan through. And when you get down the corridor, there's clothing hanging on the side, lived in space. You know, that analog sort of lived in experience. And then you go to, you know, you see the console with they waking up the crew and everything. And it was like a flower opening up with the whole crew. And the first person you see is Kane. Kane wakes up first. So automatically you think that Kane is the protagonist. You know, he wakes up and he's sitting there and we focus on him, and then in the corner you see someone's legs moving and you see someone else shuffling on this side, but Kane is just sitting there. Like, and I always saw it as though he was right there. We knew he was going to die a horrific death. And it was subconscious. And it was like, we just knew something important was going to happen. This character. And so automatically you think this is the protagonist. And then, of course, they're eating and everyone's happy and whatnot. And Mother woke them up. And you got all your characters like Dallas drinking his cup of coffee, always quiet, but always like in control, you know, and such a captain character, you know, obviously deep in thought all the time. He's sitting in the Narcissus and listening to music and all of that, just constantly sitting there. Was fascinating. And then you have Ash, which of course is like company dude. Parker and Brett, who are like the most relatable characters because they're lower class. They don't make as much money as the pilots, and they just want to raise, and they just want more money, and they, you know, and they're all at work. So what they're doing is they're just working. It's like me, like when you work at a restaurant, if you've ever worked in the service industry or something like that, they're dressed and they're there, they wake up, they're doing their job, and they do it all the time. And then eventually they might, I always like to think it's like you know, there's people that work just in one season out of the year, and they work for like a month straight, every single day, 12-hour shifts, and then they go back home for a few months and just chill, you know, like seasonal fishing or something like that. So anyway, very relatable. And as it goes on, you know, you start to figure out that, you know, everything in this universe is difficult. Nothing's easy. Even the computer systems are so convoluted, and there's like, you know, stuff everywhere, and they're gonna move things out the way because they're messy. It just felt so easy to slip into, but also uncomfortable at the same time. And that's a really hard thing to do because everyone wants to do science fiction as like 2001 or, you know, things like that where it's all futuristic and shiny and new and white and clean. Alien is just like a mess, you know, and I feel like that's what my kitchen sometimes looks like. It's like their area, you know, and so instantly you feel almost at home, but you're also unnerved. And that's genius right there. And Ridley forgot it with Prometheus and Covenant and, you know, all of that stuff. And people say those movies are because it's a science vessel. Well, not 40 years before. I'm sorry, technology doesn't degrade that much in that much time, you know. So it always trickles down in some way, and always gets better for the people who have power. So anyway, as that film goes on, you start to, they're going to a planet, landing on the planet's difficult. It's like they hit a rock and the whole thing goes crazy. They catch fire. It's ridiculous, so you're already unnerved. You feel like no one is really in control. And if you really think about it, that's how life is. I mean, an 18-wheeler could just go off the road right now and run straight through this house right now. I could just die on camera. And the thing is, like, that is life. So instantly, you're actually, when you're watching Alien, it all makes perfect logical sense. Everything about that film makes logical sense. It just, you slip right in. When they go down to the planet LV-426 and they have to go see the derelict, they're going to go look for the signal they got from the ship. When they're going there, Lambert is the character the audience relate with. She's relate with the most, and their helmets are all fogged up and it's claustrophobic. They can't see, and they have the breathing that they have. It's like that. So you almost feel like you're suffocating just a little bit while watching that movie. And then they finally see it and you're like, holy shit, what am I looking at? And that's when Giger comes in. And Giger designed the Alien, Swiss artist. I've always loved his stuff. I remember when I was 12, I finally got an art book from Giger, and I was like, holy shit. And I was just like fascinated with the worlds that he creates, that it all moves together. It's like a universe of hell that is in a architecturally perfect, organic, disgusting sort of horror. That's what Giger is. And I found him incredible. And I've read his diary, which is behind me, that little black book that's his Alien in white writing, the big one. That book is a diary. Actually, my ex-boyfriend got me that, and it's the best gift I've ever been given in my life. And I always tell people, don't get me anything Alien, because I feel like I know all of it, and if I want it, I'll have it. But that one was impressive, and the best gift I've ever gotten. Thanks, ex-boyfriend. But anyway, I've read that book, and Giger is kind of an asshole. He was also, when you read that diary, he wrote diaries every day while he was making Alien. And that book is actually scans of his actual physical diary. And he would even do photographs that he would take. The ones, what are they called? The instant photographs, he would staple them onto his diary with pictures of the set, the chest burster, how they made it, and it's pretty incredible. But he was like a dick. Like, he wanted his mother to come and the whole family, and he would make the studio pay for all of it. And so then he would go visit them at their hotel, and he wouldn't like the hotel enough. It didn't have a nice view, so he had to move everybody over there. And the studio didn't want to have anything to do with Giger anyway, because he was so weird. Especially coming from Jodorowsky's Dune, which was the Dune before David Lynch's version, and he was designing the Getty Prime, the Harkonnen tables and furniture, and the whole planet's design was all Giger. The worms were going to be designed by Giger as well. They're going to be these giant, like, crazy-looking things. Anyway, and so when that project was canceled and they came in there, the studio knew of his work, and I think they were unnerved. There was also, like, no one on the set wanted to be around him, but when they spoke to him, they said he was so sweet, he's such a kind man, which is usually the case for weird people. But his ex-girlfriend killed herself, and he had a skeleton, like, he would carry a skull around with him, and everyone thought it was his ex-girlfriend's skull. So back in the 70s, that goth thing, that extreme goth, like, that people were just like, oh no, everything back then was very religious in a lot of ways. So anywho, as the movie goes on, you see Giger's hand in all of it. Once they get to the derelict spacecraft, it's just out of control. And they get in there, and they're, walking around these hallways, which are like, not really hallways. They're like half hallways. They're like, almost like shaped like that, and they're walking through there, and it just, you feel like, and the sound of the footsteps is so intense. And then you see the space jockey, and that's when the whole movie was elevated to a whole other level. This 25 foot long creature that's fossilized to the chair, and its head is like massive. Its head was like this big, you could even see its teeth because it screamed. It looked like it was screaming. Its mouth is open. It's like, wah, and you can see the teeth on the inside. And it's fossilized into its screaming position. And its chest exploded. And I always thought that was, if you wanted my theory behind it, I always thought that this race was a superior race to ours that wanted to harness the alien as a weapon. But what they were doing is they were controlling them, and then one got out and burst through his chest, and the ship crashed there as it was happening. It crashed the ship, and and they've been sitting there dormant for thousands of years. I always thought that the alien eggs, when you see Cain go down that wall and it's all bones, and those were all real cow bones. Supposedly it stank really bad when they made it. And it's like when he's going down that wall and you hear the sound of the wire, it's like zzz, as he's going down, everything is so unnerving. And the humidity in that room, you can see the smoke. It's like you can't breathe, you can't see his face because it's all fogged up. It's just accidental genius is what it is. And so when he gets to that egg, you see the thing inside, and it's Ridley's hands doing this, underneath there. And when you see it moving like that, and it's almost like warning, it goes like that, it's almost warning you, like you better walk away. And I always thought the alien was kind of like that. Like it was almost like, leave us alone, and if you do, we're going to kill all of you. That's what I always thought it was. I never thought the alien just wanted to breed like crazy. I always thought it like just step away, like a warning system, and so when the chest burster gets on Cain, there goes our protagonist, and you're like, oh my god, well, he can't die, he can't die. And that right there is where the genius lies. It's the fact that they made the protagonist now the victim immediately, and you don't know, you keep making up excuses in your mind. Well, he's fine, he's our protagonist, he's going to come out of it just fine. And so, of course, they get back to the ship, and you have the company Ash, the droid, lets him in, because he's working for Wayland secretly. And when they get that helmet off of Cain, when it cracks open and you see that facehugger, it is 1,000 times better than anything in Romulus with the facehuggers. Even though people love the facehuggers running and scurrying and jumping and everything, and even the ones in Aliens were wonderful, the way they would move and the way Ridley would shoot them flying across the floor, running in the water like that. Very, very well done, but nothing compares to that original facehugger. When they crack that helmet off and you see that tail slip around his throat, and the way the gills are up against his like jawbone back here, and it's snug. It's like snug, like almost looks like, because it's also almost skin color. It looks like it's meant to be there, like it cups it just perfectly. And the hands go forward, not sideways. They're forward, so they've locked on around the back. The tail's got it there, and then the suction cups, the breathing lungs of the facehugger on the side of the face. And I always thought that those had like suction, so they were like on him. So the whole thing, no matter how you try, you can't get it off. And if you get it off, you're going to die, because it's going to like blow acid all over the host's face, or something was going to happen where it wouldn't allow the host to live if it can't finish its gestation period. And then you get the long gestation. You get him just sitting there, with this thing on its face, and the unnerving thing that they're sitting there. And the crew, they're like, oh, well, let's leave the planet. Let's get out of here. Like, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind, sweep it under the rug. It can't be that bad. And then, of course, the facehugger comes off, and people are like, oh my god. And this is like the next day the facehugger comes off. So you have that time to like really think. And every time you see it, you think, has it gotten bigger? Like, it looks like it's growing on his face. It's not, but it's the illusion of the way they shot it with zoomed in angles. It looks like it's changing. And then it's, of course, dead on the floor, and it comes off, and then Cain wakes up, and he's just hanging out. They're all having their breakfast, and they're all chilling, and everyone's like looking at him like, what the heck? And Ash, of course, knows. So if you look at Ash's face during that scene, which is genius, you could see he's processing. Something's happening here, And so he, of course, Cain's character gives birth and to the first xenomorph we ever see, the Cain's son, the big chap. And when it comes out, it doesn't just like burst out. You can see it's like fighting his ribcage. Like, I always thought the pain that he was feeling had to have been so bizarre, because I always saw it as though it's chewing around, like it's, because it doesn't know what humans are. It's not going to look and go, what ribcage am I in now? It just has to chew its way out. So I always feel like his whole like that he does, and all these weird like twitchings, and he's like that, it's the alien chewing its way out all over the place, and then finally it gives up, and it's like, I need out now. That's the way I always saw it. And it just starts bashing into his ribcage, and it's breaking through that sternum, and that pain has to be insane to break out like that. And then when you see it, it looks so real, and it's like exactly what you would expect. And John Hurt, Cain's the person who plays Cain, always described Alien as being very real and very logical. Like you slipped into a world that makes perfect sense, but it's so alien. And everything about the alien makes sense. You've got, an egg, facehugger, chestburster. Insects do it all the time. They do it all the time in our world. They inject animals and they'll control them and climb to the highest branch so a bird will eat it, and then they get into the bird system, and then the bird will, shit somewhere and it'll get in something and it'll whatever licks that up or eats the bird or something. Now the life cycle continues. It's of that whatever it was in there, So it's very logical when you think about it. And of course, the alien gets far away, and then the first character is Brett. And when Brett dies, the alien is like not just killing him, it's playing with him, and it's the alien's first kill. It's and also the facehugger. Let me get into this. So the facehugger originally in the book has an eye. And I find it incredible in the book, the Alien book, and the screenplay, and also Giger's original designs. If you go back and look at his original Alien designs, you know what? We're going to be super nerdy. I'm going to get the book. I know exactly what it looks like. Let's see. Okay, we're going to look at this together. So his original design, the original Alien design, a facehugger design by Giger, had an eye, and the eye on it was actually. Like white, no pupil of any kind. Here we go. No pupil of any kind, and it would move. It would move to you. So, how can we not show it there? Well, maybe my description's better already. I should have done research and found all this information while I could. But, so the original facehugger, the design, Giger had as an eye, like right on the front. And when you first see it, it's not there. When you first see it, it would move like a white, imagine like a milky white marble. And it actually, so it has no pupil, and it moves. So say if you're in the room and you move, it moves, but you just see the wetness, the sheen move. And that's the way they described it in the original screenplay. That's what Giger designed it to be, which, if you want me to be honest, that's horrifying. To think that it's like watching you, but you can't see where it's looking. And that's the whole point with Alien. It's looking at you, but you don't know it's looking at you. So I always loved that design, and I could have implemented that in Romulus as well. If you'd looked into that, it would have been such a cool little freaky little thing, to add in there. And it would have been so true to Giger's original work. Anyway, so then you have Brett. He dies, and it's big. It's like playing with him. It touches his face. It's like hanging over him like this, and then eventually I think it actually grabs his head and like just, and then just with his little tongue, and like that's it, and he's dead. And it happens so quick, and it's so big so fast. I think within like an hour, it's already 8 foot tall. 2 hours is really large, And the way Ridley described it is though it's in pain. The alien's actually in pain because of the darkening of the skin was his skin bruising. That was what originally they planned it to be. And so it, kills Brett, and then of course I think it's Dallas next. Yeah, Dallas dies, and Ash rigs the little beeping system, which is just genius anxiety. So he rigs the system. And anyway, so as the film goes on, Dallas dies a horrific death in a tunnel, but you never see them die. It's always like a close-up and then it's done. And you never see the whole alien. You never get to get a good look at it. And it looks like part of the ship. You can't see it. And it's so unnerving because everything in that movie is unnerving. The intro's unnerving. The planet's unnerving. Giger's artwork's unnerving. Everything is designed to be alien about that film. But it all makes perfect sense. It's all very logical, and that's the genius of Alien. And then, of course, as the film goes on, you get to, Lambert gets taken out, Parker gets taken out, and Parker's like big and tough and such an attitude. You find out that Ash is a droid, and all of that is just one thing after another. And the other one in the Alien series that has that is Aliens. It's always one thing after another. It's like they're doing a performance, and this performance is so well thought out. It's a hit. It's like a rocket ship taking off. And then once Ash is the android, they find out about the company. Now there's this. Now you feel like they're like the little guy going against the company and the alien. And they're also. I always thought that the company was just seeing what would happen. Like, let's just put the alien on the ship and see if they could survive it, See if they could figure it out, or, something like that. Like, almost like a test. But maybe they could bring one back. If someone can bring it back, good. But we would like to see if anyone can survive this thing, And, like, they were just experimenting with it. And, and then of course you get the fourth act, because there's always the classic, the first, in alien films, there's always a fourth act. The alien always comes back. There's always an extra scene tagged on the end. It's a tradition in the Alien franchise. And so in the fourth act, you find out that Ripley, I mean, the third act, you find out Ripley's our main character, I mean, now we've got Ripley and she's the most logical. She's lost everything. There was a possible romance with Dallas that they kind of hinted at. And she's just in pure survival mode. I mean, her nails are sweating. Like, she's in such a deep pile of shit and she has no one around her and she's doing everything like intelligently. And that's the strength of Ripley. She's not strong. She's not physically buff. She's none of that. She's not even like, most people say she's a badass, but they get it misconstrued, because Ripley is a badass, but she's a badass because she's intelligent. That's what makes Ripley badass, is that she represents the brightest of us. And the brightest of us is not your gun or your workout capabilities or anything like that. The brightest is your intelligence and figuring out that survival skill. And that's what we relate with the alien. So you find out Ripley's our protagonist by the end of the movie when everyone's dead, and now you're just thrown in there. You're with this character who's smart, but you doubt her survival, even if she's smart. So now you're left with this fear that's just overwhelming, And then, of course, the alien shows back up, and the Narcissus, and it's... So as a kid, I remember when Dallas died, when it jumps out and gets him in the corridor, I remember all of us jumping in the room with my whole family that was there. And I remember being like damaged. I was like, oh my God, like that freaked me out, Even seeing aliens, it freaked me out. And watching each one of them die. And one of the scariest scenes, I believe, is actually when Lambert's death. But the way they shoot it with a white light ring right around her. And as the alien comes in the room, you can see it, but it's like almost like gliding him, but it's actually in a crab walk. It's actually on its back. They never showed it in the original film. You can look up the crab walk online. It's fascinating. So the alien's in a crab walk, and they use the tail to actually come up towards her, like it's pointing at her with its tail underneath its body. And as it gets to her, she turns around and kind of sees it, and she keeps going because she's in such emotion, like, oh, I've got to... And then she doesn't really process what she's seen. And that's what makes Alien so good, is that she does what we do. We're like, did we just see the alien? She did the same thing. So she looks behind her, and she's like, wait a second. She like looks back again, and then she's like, oh my God, And then she realizes how massive it is. And when it stands up and it's towering like way above her, it doesn't just kill her. And that's what I find so interesting about the original Alien, is it doesn't just kill them immediately. It's not like it's like shink, like right away. It looks at her and it gets right up to her face here. And in the original Alien, the lips were the translucent, like almost like, they're bizarre, but it looks almost like a beak. The way they seal over it, it looks like this. It's like little thin lips, and it's a clear sheen by the Ramboli design, and it's in her face, but it's all wet, so you can't tell what you're looking at. And she's like standing there, and of course it's like basically all around her at this point. The shadow on her face is this dark orange, like it's almost like she has no light left inside her, and she's just in pure like horror of what she's seeing. And the tail going between her legs is actually Brett's legs. A lot of people don't know that. They cut it from Brett dying, or they edited it in. It'll kind of destroy the scene a little bit for you, but it's actually, they edited it into Lambert's death because they wanted to look like it was going in her from behind, but they wanted it to be like sexual, or at least insinuate that it's sexual. And the sounds that Lambert makes when she dies is like, what kind of sounds are those? So it's almost like hentai, kind of like weird alien sex scene. And so that scene right there, when she's screaming and Ripley is running around in the dark with the lights going, and you hear Lambert like making those weird sounds, and then the last little scream at the end, and then you see her toe like all mangled, and she's just swinging like she's hanging from something, like who knows what's going on there. More Alien, And so, and Ripley's character, I mean, Alien is such a phenomenal movie in every way. And it is one of the greatest movies of all time for all the things I'm telling you about. And each character is so definitive. Each scene is so weird and alien that it just all works together. The score, the direction, the lighting, the artists, everything is so well perfectly put together. And every line that comes out of a character's mouth is iconic. It is because the character earned it. It's because the character put the work in to say it. And it makes sense, unlike things from Romulus. It makes sense. When they say it, it has value. And that's why Alien will always be seen as one of the greatest films of all time. It was a perfect combination of characters that came together, and actors in the art department, and everything that came together all the time in the late 70s. The powerhouse that was weird heavy metal movies. Anyway, and that's why it means a lot to me. And Ripley, of course, is such a, I feel like we should all try to be more like Ripley. Not just her warning them that the alien is on the ship and it's bad and we shouldn't have it there, but it's because of who she is as a human being. And I feel like she's always been my icon. I will go into Aliens next. If you guys appreciate this breakdown, I'll go into Aliens next and see what you guys think about my view of that and why it's so important to me and why these movies are so powerful to me in my life and my obsession. And I'm glad to see there's other people still into them. A 50-year franchise, almost a 50-year-old franchise, you know? Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Also, check out my live streams. I'm playing Black Myth Wukong right now. Keep an eye out for it. Y'all have a great day.